I've heard people say that when you pick off a pass like that or going a long run, that the noise goes away while you're running, and then as soon as you cross the goal line, it comes back. Did you ever experience anything like that?
Well, that was 100%. I mean, I didn't hear the noise. My thing was to get to the zone and just make things happen. So it's kind of funny you say that because you really don't hear the noise. And all I know, once I got to the end zone, between C Miles, Kevin Carter, everybody coming over, it was it was exciting. It was great.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, and of course coming to you from the Dooley Dome, but from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome, we call it that, Meldon Law Gator Studios, Dooley Dome every Thursday. Today, we'll have a great guest on, Larry Kennedy. Can't wait to talk to him. What a cool guy he is. Been working for Riddell for a long time. Not Riddell Anthony, but Riddell, the helmet manufacturers. That's why I put those helmets up there today on the back on my recliner, just so he would feel more at home. And then, of course, Monday, Coach Spurrier will be back on. Look forward to that. And on Thursday, Sean Kelly, I'm pretty sure, is going to join us, and that'll be really fun as well. Let's get along. It is very cold out there. Everybody be careful. But you really fear for the people who are dealing with these ice blizzards and cars are wrecking. And then meanwhile, on the West Coast, fires that are unbelievable. My daughter can see the fires. That's how close they're getting. My oldest daughter, and they've got bags packed, ready to evacuate if they have to. So really, we're having a cold day for us. It's in the 30s. That's not too bad. Now, when the hurricanes start coming our way, then you can feel bad for us, but we're okay. All right, let's get to our Royal Blue starting five. It's brought to you by Randy Royal and Royal Blue. We appreciate them, and they are a great sponsor of our starting five, and that's a place to go to see where you want to get a boat. If you want a man with a boat wants to see. All right, let's start with number one. And look, Tuesday night was pretty cool. You're watching the game and you're like, what is going on here? And that has been the way. I guess maybe we aren't used to Florida doing these kind of things that they've done pretty much this whole year, blowing teams out. The only close games they had were North Carolina won at the end, which was great, and then Kentucky, well, they lost by 6 and just forgot to play defense. Well, they play defense in this game. My question is this, okay? You can answer it in your own mind. What was the reason Florida played better defense? Do you think it was because they were at home? Do you think it was because Tennessee had just a bad night? Or do you think it's because Florida's defense really ramped up and played really well and was good matchups? The answer is all three. Playing at home's a different animal. We've seen that all year. Certainly Tennessee missed some wide open looks. Now, Florida played great defense. It's possible to play great defense and give up wide open looks, and as long as they don't go in, and if enough of them going in this case, Tennessee's none of them went in. Felt like, but certainly they're limping. They limp back to Knoxville, and we saw Florida put on just an amazing performance. This is a game where Walter Clayton had 2 fouls early and ended up scoring 7 points. And they found other ways to win with different players, and we'll get to some of those as we go through our fun stuff at the end here. On another duly noted podcast. This was the biggest loss by the number one team since 1968, and I did watch that game. Sorry, that was Elvin Hayes getting smacked by UCLA. Now I'm trying to remember, was the Elvin Hayes game in Houston where they played in the Astrodome and they beat UCLA? Was that the year before or the year after, or was it that year? Earlier in the year. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up, and I'm not going to do that. All right. Anyway, it was pretty good night. The key was the defense, but also number 2 on our Royal Blue starting five, the way they hit the boards. And this is the thing that we love about. Todd came in here with this plan, and when I heard what it was, I'm like, yeah, that'd be great, but I'm not sure you're going to be able to get talented bigs, but he wants 4 bigs on the floor. Now, he's not the first coach to ever want that or try to do that. In fact, you want to go back to the national championship team. They would bring Spates off the bench. They would bring obviously, God, I'm blanking on his name. Not Bono Colas, Adrian Moss, who had a great game in the national championship game. So they bring those guys off the bench to go along with Joakim and Al and Corey. And the same way with that 2000 team that went to the championship game. You could bring 4 guys in. Anyway, the point is, this is his plan. You have 4 guys that you can trust, and you can bring them in. And that way, nobody ever can really get in too bad of foul trouble. You can always sit them down, bring another guy in, and you don't feel like you've lost anything. And that's what they've done. And those guys, those 4 bigs in that game, I wrote it down here, combined for 40 of their 56 rebounds. Which is pretty impressive. Or I'm sorry, 34 of their 56 rebounds. 34 rebounds for those 4 big guys. And that's the other thing, the way their guards rebound. Will Richard is one of the best 6'3" rebounders I've seen in a long time, if he's 6'4" or whatever. But he's long, and he's been really good. And he's how many putbacks has he had that have been in crucial situations? One of them was against North Carolina. That was a huge one. And that was kind of the biggest play of the game. But, there were so many big plays in this one. If we did a play of the week this week, which we only do it on Mondays, but if we did, I could have picked out about 15 of them. But I thought, again, a huge play was when Will Richard went on the ground to get a loose ball, flipped it over to Condon, and he dunked it. And, man, that place was going nuts. And it was loud. All right, so let's move along to our 40-14 points in the paint. That's another example of how the bigs really help. Although some of it was driving. Those are some unbelievable reverse layups. They've gotten good at those. All right, let's get to number 4 on our Royal Blue starting 5. And I did want to address this because it became a huge issue on Twitter. Doesn't mean it's a huge issue, but it was an issue, and that was the students feeling they were left out. And we had Scott Strickland come on the tailgate. I asked him to come on and just explain it. And I knew there'd be a decent explanation. And the great thing was, he said, that won't happen again. Now, when they were coming up with this idea, it was in November, they said, we're going to have 3 games without the students on campus. They looked at the numbers for the last year's game and the year before's game right around the same time. SEC games, I think it was Kentucky was one and Georgia was another, whoever it was. And they knew kids don't come back yet. They haven't come back for school yet, so they don't come back. But obviously, all the kids in line got in, but people that came late, came within 60, 90 minutes, they weren't camping out there. They did not get in. And there were students that had to be moved. Some of them were moved, and this is a story that wasn't told. Some of them were moved and then moved back because they just wanted to get them out of those seats, and they brought them up to the top, and then they moved them back. All that said, it wasn't a good look for Florida. However, like Scott said, it won't happen again. We didn't know when we were making all these scheduling things that Tennessee was going to be number 1 and undefeated. And people were going to come back for it, or maybe just all the students who live in Alachua County, there's a lot of them, decided they were going to go. So anyway, my point is, it wasn't good. Didn't spoil anything for anybody. I certainly would hope not. But look, as long as you understand, you're trying to, and everybody says, oh, Bill, just trying to make more money. Yeah, you're damn right they are. They are a business. The University Athletic Association, it's a business, man. You're trying to make money all the time. Why do you think you get charged $16 for beer at the baseball stadium? They're trying to make money. You don't have to buy it. But anyway, hopefully everybody can get over this that is still overreacting to it. It's, it wasn't a good thing that happened, but it wasn't a big deal, I think, is the bottom line. If they said, and we're going to do that every year, and we may start doing it for all the games, then I would be screaming from the rooftops of how that was a bad thing. But that's not the case. we made a mistake. We're not going to do it again. You have to understand it was a unique situation, and maybe we should have adjusted. Okay. Anyway, all right, let's move along to number 4 on our Royal Blues starting 5, and that is the Arkansas is next, and Arkansas was ranked, but they've struggled in SEC play so far. They lost last night to Ole Miss 73-66. I watched the game. They have a kid, and John L. Davis, who was also on that FAU championship team with Elijah Martin. So that'll be a nice reunion for those guys. Here's a weird thing about the SEC, though. Remember, I was making this big deal about the road, how the home teams were killing everybody. They were 3-10. The road teams were. They'd only won 3 of the 13 games played so far before last night. Guess what? You had the matchups that it didn't matter if it was home or away, and the road teams went 3-0. Well, one reason was because Auburn was playing. Another reason was because Calipari doesn't have his team all together yet. He's got some really nice players, and they just got to figure it out. Adu's a pretty good player. Fierro, who remember from Kentucky, they're all portal guys pretty much. So we'll see how it all goes. But I mean, this is a good example of, let's see. You know how you don't let one loss become 2? I think I was trying to remember who. Oh, was that Patrick Young that was saying that on TV? Man, he's doing a great job on TV. No, it was another coach who said that he asked for advice, and it was Golden asking somebody for advice. They said, don't let one loss become 2. Oh, it was Jimmy Dykes. That's who it was. No, it wasn't him either. Doesn't really matter who it was. Well, my thing is right now, don't let one win think you've got the next one won. Don't let one win become 2 imaginary wins, because you still got to do all the same work, all the same prep, all the same scouting, all the same attention to detail, all the same rest, all the same putting the right things in your body, and then go on the road and beat a team that is struggling a little bit. They're 0-2 in the conference. It's going to be hard for them to come back from that. But I know that they don't need any advice from me. That this is what I'm saying to them: go beat Arkansas. It'll be fun, hopefully. We'll get to what time and where you can watch that game when we get to our swamp games of the weekend at the end here today. We do want to go back. Let's get to number 5 on our Royal Blues starting 5 to the college football playoffs. Start tonight, back again. Again, like I said last week or earlier this week, it's just hard to get a feel for anything, because unless you're on site, it doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal, because we have the NFL playoffs start. Now, I will say this is a glorious time to be alive, because not only do we have, we're into Gator basketball, 14-1, of course we are, but we've got 2 college football playoff games and then 6 NFL games. So it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Well, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. I'm not bitching about TV ever, because they put all those games on for us. All right. By the way, the spreads have not moved very much. I've been looking at them. Notre Dame is a 1.5-point favorite over Penn State, which is basically a pick'em game still. I don't really have a good feeling on that game, who's going to win. Ohio State is a 6-point favorite over Texas, which they have pretty much now. They've got to deal with that icing, and they're still planning to have the game. The big fear is not that there's any danger in an indoor stadium. It's how do people get to the game safely, and if they can't, then it's a disaster. In LA, they're talking about moving that game to Glendale, to that stadium, one of my favorite stadiums, because of the fires, and they haven't made a decision on that yet. Maybe they have by the time you listen to this. All right. Anyway, I'm rooting for Notre Dame and Texas. Sorry, Ken. James Franklin pisses me off all the time. And I don't know, there's just something about him that I have a hard time with. But I won't mind if Notre Dame loses either. I won't mind if Penn State wins. So I'm just going to watch the game. Just watch the game, Robbie. And then I'm rooting for Texas because I picked them in the beginning of the year. And it's all we got left in the SEC. Although I root against SEC teams at times. It depends on what the situation is. You can't just root against or for all the time. Oh, always against FSU. All right, that is our Royal Blues starting five. We appreciate you all for checking in, and we did get word today. I'm going to find out when I get off done with the podcast. I'm going to make the call. We may be having a new sponsor come on board. He heard what I was saying. We've always got room. I really want to get one more sponsor. We can take two if somebody else wants to get involved. And it's obviously people stay with us. I mean, people also have to drop off, and we get that. But look, we just love doing it. And what are we at, Zach? What episode is this? 411, maybe? 412?
I think this is 413.
413? Oh,
yeah.
Lucky. But anyway, 413 so far, and we're not going away. All right, we'll be back with more of another duly noted podcast. Larry Kennedy will join us from the road. We appreciate him doing that. He's a great dude, and we look forward to him coming on the show. Of course, it is presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, and it comes to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Here are just a few reasons why doing business with the Royal Blue puts you at the helm of your boating lifestyle. 1, the longer we have your listing, the lower percentage commissions you will pay. 2, survey reimbursement for qualified buyers. 3, detail reimbursement for qualified sellers. 4, on-the-water delivery orientation availability. Call us today to schedule a consultation to see what Royal Blue can do to solve all of your boating needs. Call Randy at 850-974-1294.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, and of course coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Ponderosa. We appreciate our next guest, who is one of the great Gators of all time, one of my favorites, and certainly I don't know if it ever was louder than it was that one night in 1991. When you ran back that interception against Tennessee. I still say that was as loud as it ever got there.
Well, I will say this, I've watched a lot of Gator football since then. And I will say, even after watching the replay and playing the video quite often, I will say it's still one of the loudest, in my opinion. Not being biased, but it was pretty loud and pretty exciting.
I've heard people say that when you pick off a pass like that or going a long run, that the noise goes away while you're running, and then as soon as you cross the goal line, it comes back. Did you ever experience anything like that?
Well, that was 100%. I mean, I didn't hear the noise. My thing was to get to the zone and just make things happen. So it's kind of funny you say that, because you really don't hear the noise. And all I know, once I got to the end zone, between C. Miles, Kevin Carter, everybody coming over, it was kind of it was exciting. It was great. Then I heard everything at that point.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah, exactly. You're still with Riddell. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. This has been a good career for you, isn't it?
Well, I've been Riddell going up 26 years now. So, of course, I got my hands in quite a few things, but Riddell is the catalyst. That's my baby. That's the nucleus of what I do. That little football helmet has carried me a long way. And
yeah,
I'm
got
proud
a couple of them over here in the corner right now. We get them from coaches all over the country for our golf tournament. And we usually have too many, so we have to save them for the next year's golf tournament.
Well, that's good, because you can never have too many, because I can tell you, everybody wants one.
That's right. Everybody does. I do want to go back to your time when you came to Florida and your recruitment by Coach Spurrier, because, you guys came in And that was the beginning of the glory years, really, the 91, 92, 93, 94.
Well, it definitely was the beginning of the glory years, in my opinion. But I will say this, during my recruiting process, of course, with guys like Emmett Smith, Lewis Oliver, Jarvis Williams, they had some names that, we was familiar with, and going to watch players play in Gainesville kind of during that time, driving up to the games, renting cars, getting there, and then my high school coaches taking me there. It was always a unique place at that time because, believe it or not, the first guy to really come into my house or really come into my high school to recruit me was Galen Hall.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah,
because he was
so
a coach in up until the middle of '89 season.
yeah, so Galen Hall came into Riverview High School, and then of course Galen. Fast forward, Galen was my coach in NFL Europe for the Dusseldorf Rheinfire with Wes Chandler.
Was that the team that was Kerwin the quarterback of that team, or was there somebody else?
No, Terry Dean was the quarterback.
Terry Dean, that's right. Yeah.
Terry Dean and Andy Kelly. And Andy and I kind of made jokes because, of course, Andy was who I picked off my freshman year.
Exactly.
So it's kind of how funny, how small athletics really is, and then how things really come full circle in athletics, and how you stay in contact, how you meet a lot of guys you play with, and now, I mean, these guys see each other so much, they know each other before they even compete against each other.
Yeah, and I mean, when Spurrier's recruiting you, though, his pitch is, hey, if you want to come play with us, great. If you don't, we'll go beat you there.
Well, I'll say this with Coach. I mean, and I still have a great relationship with Coach to this day. I mean, matter of fact, my relationship today probably is as good as it was, if not better than it was, even as a player. So I have so much admiration and respect for Coach that, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you, how that really is. But I was the second house he came to. When he got the job, he went to Terry Dean's house first in Naples, and then of course he came up to Sarasota and sat with he and Coach Franks sat in there with my grandmother and I mean, and it was unique. It was very much so respectful from my standpoint. And you got to think we didn't have much. I mean, we barely had air conditioning. I mean, barely had couches to sit on. And for Coach to come in there and spend the amount of time he spent with my grandmother and Coach Franks, I mean, they just made him feel comfortable. And at the time, of course, Florida was always my number one school, but we didn't know what was going to happen with probation.
Oh yeah,
because that was the 90 year, and so during that recruiting process, and just my grandmother and I, it was a lot that was happening. It was moving fast, but Coach, I tell you what, my grandmother has so much admiration for Coach Spurrier and Coach Franks that I can't begin to tell you how much that meant. And even today, Coach Franks, that was my grandmother's boy. I mean, even before my grandmother passed away, and I always talk about it, Coach Franks would always, if he was in Sarasota recruiting, he would stop by and see my grandmother. Regardless if I was there or not, he would just stop by. Even long after I was done at Florida, he was still going by to see my grandmother up until she passed away.
Carl's a great dude. In fact, when he got the Duke job, I went up there and to the press conference. That's how much respect I had for him. I mean, he just was a terrific guy. Still is. See him all the time, every once in a while. Well, not all the time, but I see him every once in a while. And he's hanging in there.
No, he's doing great. I see him at the AFCA. We got AFCA in Charlotte, and at Riddell, we always have. I'm the national key account manager at Riddell, of course, and NFL liaison, and so I'm involved research and development and so forth. So I see Coach Franks when I'm out on the road or at the conventions, and I always make sure he has an invite to the Riddell booth or to the Riddell event or to the Riddell social, whatever it is. I make sure I take care of Coach Franks.
Yeah, that's pretty. How did you get started with it though? After your career, what did you what did they say that turned you on to it?
Well, it was kind of a unique situation because, of course, after the injury kind of really stalled my career. I mean, and it's kind of funny because the legacy. Sometimes people forget the collegiate legacy if your pro career didn't go quite as you thought it would go or they thought it would go, so they forget. As great as I felt that was, as meaningful as I was to Florida football, sometimes I think I get pushed to the side because the NFL piece didn't match the collegiate level. So, which is cool. I'm completely good with that. I don't have a problem. But I will say this: I met special agent. I ain't gonna say his name, but I did meet the special agent at the time that worked for the government, one of the government agencies, at a career fair at Florida, my sophomore year, and the special agent in charge stayed in touch with me the entire time that I was involved playing in Florida. Well, when I signed with the Dolphins, and I knew I was on the back end after the injury, but when I signed with the Dolphins, I started the process of the government agency. I
Uh-huh.
went on the interview, except all that mumble jumble dealing with the government stuff. But in the process, I also was going to Australia. Well, I was taking a team to Australia to play football in the Down Under Bowl. I needed sponsorships, and my high school coach got me in touch with. Well, I got in touch with Timmy Sane. Timmy Sane got me in touch with Denny Smith, who was working for Riddell out of Bartow, and that led to meeting Gig Sinani and Tom Klepek, and they came down to Sarasota, met with my wife and I. Long story short, I stalled the position with the United States government, and I ended up taking the position at Riddell, and they gave me 3 cities I could choose to live in, and one of the Alabama, Mississippi was out of the question for me when they threw
No.
that out there. So Mississippi burning had just came out. I said, man, I'm not living in Mississippi. I know I'm not living in Mississippi, but I love Miss now. And I do a lot of work in Mississippi. I met a lot of great people in Mississippi. So that whole thing has been great because now I kind of understand the state a lot more than I did back then. But I ended up choosing Charlotte, and I've been in Charlotte. I've had the opportunity to move to the West Coast, Chicago, Boston, but I was allotted to stay in promotions. I was allotted to stay in Charlotte. So I've been national key account manager now for about 15 years and NFL liaison. And I'm also, of course, the chairman of the Orange Blossom Classic in
Right.
Miami, executive board member of the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. And of course, I deal with one of the founding partners. I was involved with the Legacy Bowl with Doug Williams and Shaq and those guys in New Orleans with the Black College, the All-Star game. And of course, we got the combine with the HBCU stuff. So I'm heavily involved. And then, I'm an advisor to a company, Matic, which is skill games. I'm an advisor to the CEO, president of a company. So I got my hands involved in a lot of different things. I deal with the All-American games, the Under Armour All-American game, sponsored the Navy All-American game, which was the Army All-American game for years. So I'm very involved with the youth in the community. So, and of course, I love going home, giving back to Sarasota when I can.
And I'm sure coming back here too to go to Gator games and everything. And
Oh, of course.
you probably were watching that secondary for the last 3 years going, what the hell's going on? And finally, at the end of this season, we finally saw a really good secondary that was intercepting passes. I looked it up. It is legal to intercept a pass. I wasn't sure if they knew that or not, but this year they really did a good job.
Well, I will say this, I've come back I try to make at least 2 or 3 games a year. And I will say this, every time I call down there, make the call, Napier or someone on Napier's staff there inside the athletic department, they look out for me. They always make sure I'm good. They always, whether it's making sure I got my sideline pass, whether make sure I got great seats, whether I got my suites or whatever. I always feel at home. I've never went down there and not ever felt at home. And it don't matter who's coaching, but I will say with Napier's staff, every time I've gone down there, I've always felt like I was at home. Somebody's always come through. When I make the call, somebody's Ali in that athletic department, then they always make me feel special. So I'll never say then there is no place like home. And Gainesville is always home. And of course, I travel the country. I see most colleges in America from every level. And so I see the differences in the programs. I see the differences in the leadership, the AD, the recruitment. I see there's no place better than Florida, in my opinion. And I will say we do it as good, if not better, than anyone else in the country. We just got to make sure we win football games.
Yeah, that's it. It's got to translate to the field. You know what I mean? It's all the great things that Billy's been able to do needs to translate to the field. And finally, these last 4 games, we saw it happen. I mean, I'm sure it didn't bother you to see them beat FSU.
We better beat FSU, especially this year. But I will say this. It was great seeing the team, the progression of the team. They got better as the year went on. It was good to see Lagway in there, not take anything away from Mertz. because he was a good soldier when it was when his number was called. He answered the bell. He did some great things. But I tell you what, when we turned the page and we put number 2 in the game, it was a different game. And I will say, I think with number 2 at the helm, the program is definitely on the rise. And I was at the Under Armour game this past week, and we got some great young talent coming in there from the receiving corps, and just look like some of the guys that look like we got out the portal. I think the receiving corps, I think the offense should be intact, but we got to open that thing up. I don't know if we bring. I don't know what the offensive mentality or the offensive future looks like as far as scheme, but it does, in my opinion, needs to get a little more creative and open it up a little bit. And because we got the talent there, you got the quarterback, you have the receivers in place, you got to run, you got a nice running game, and I think the line has gotten a lot better. Now we just get the points got to show on the scoreboard, and I think that comes back to the head coach, offensive creativity, whether it's and now just with the way college football is, I think a head coach can't do it all. I don't think the days of Coach Spurrier sitting there on the sideline calling plays. I think sometimes that's dead and gone because there's so many other things that a head coach has to think about before he even gets to the field to even start putting together a game plan. And to me, you can't have your head clouded with whether it's collectives, NIL stuff, recruiting, portal, grades, eligibility, because everything comes to your desk. And to be an offensive game changer and game caller, to me, you need to take something off your plate or give that up to someone else, and then you oversee and let your expertise as an offensive with that offensive mind and offensive creativity, let it show inside of your offensive coordinator, opposed to you trying to take the blunt of the blow every game and create that game plan. That's just my opinion, because I do think, again, I like Napier. I like what he's done. I like how he weathered the storm, because to me he was dead in the water. He's dead in the water.
That's what everybody was saying. Yeah, he was done.
I mean, it was next man up. I mean, I had even had a list of coaches I wanted to see. So, because that's the way the program was teetering. Let's be real about it. But he was resilient. The guys stayed behind him. They believed in the guy, because a lot of times players can lose interest in the guy that recruited them if they're not happy with something. So to me, whatever he's doing in that locker room, whatever he's doing in the meeting room, whatever he's doing in that office, when he gets in front of those players, they still believe in him. And to me, that's the sign of a great leader, because you could be a boss and not be a great leader. And I think he's more of a great leader than a boss. So that tells me a lot. Now let's put the right pieces of the puzzle together to clean this thing up. And to me, making sure the strength program is better, making sure the defense is buttoned up, and making sure, I think, to me, offensive coordinator, I still think you bring in a young offensive mind. And in my opinion, I would bring in Curran Bell's son.
Cade,
I thought I would bring in Cade from Pitt. Bring in Cade, a guy like Cade who's very innovative, very creative. I got to watch him a little bit at Western Carolina. I got to see him at Pitt. I think they had the number one offense up until their quarterback went down, and then they had to bring in that tall, stoic quarterback who was he was just a statue. He was a statue. So I think Cade kind of lost a lot of momentum as far as his national presence was concerned. But you put Cade with those athletes you have at Florida, with the Napier, who's still young enough to relate to a guy like Cade, I think now you got something special. So that's again, just my opinion. But those are just little things like that I think that'll take us to the next step, because we can't get to the next step. We're an 8-win team right now where we're at. We can win 8, 9 games. I do think that. But to get to the playoffs and to compete for a national championship, you got to make a few changes, a few tweaks, and we're not far. So you talk about the OC, DC, maybe, and then of course we got to make sure the strength and conditioning program is tightened up. We can't have a revolving door of strength and conditioning coach, because the strength and conditioning program is the backbone of your program, and that's where it all starts in the weight room.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I mean, I've been hearing the rumor that they are going to hire an OC. Now, it doesn't mean I'm 100% right on that, but I've been hearing it from pretty good sources that they are going to hire an OC, and I agree with you. I think that's an opinion shared by the entire Gator Nation. is that if you're worried about the next play to call, sometimes you're not noticing there's only 10 guys or there's 13 guys on the field or stuff like this. You gotta have a attention to detail that I think Billy Napier's kind of realized this year he needs to have as well. Larry Kennedy I'm just a second. Larry Kennedy is coming to us on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
Oh no, hey, hey, Big Cheese, let's get it, Coach. Hey, I'm hungry. It's early.
I know you're ready. And this is a man, by the way, I wanted to tell you who is second all time in Florida in pass breakups. How about that?
Look, Coach. Hey, pass breakups, Coach. Consecutive starts, and then you got to think after I had a good early years, the ball didn't come my way that often.
No, it didn't.
That's
Did
what
you
a lot
start
of people,
every game you played in at Florida?
I started 50 straight. Only game I didn't start was the first one against San Jose State.
San Jose State.
Yep, I came in the third series and I never looked back.
Wow, that is a great story. Before we let you go, Larry, we played this game called Yes, No, Where, Maybe. It is brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way. And you can go in there and say you listen to this podcast and get free fries with your order. So if you're driving back from Clemson, you can go by there and get some free fries with your order.
Yeah, I am going to Clemson. I mean, I'm going to Clemson to scan players, of course. Those mid-year players coming in, so
yeah,
it's scanning time. I got to get these guys all fitted up in their custom helmets and all so forth. So, the job that it never dies.
No, it never does. There's no question about it. All right, number one on Yes, No, Where, Maybe. You prefer Carolina barbecue to Texas barbecue.
The fact that I travel to both, I live in Carolina and I travel to Texas, I'm still going to say Carolina.
Yeah,
I got to go with Carolina because that's home. I mean, in Texas, they think they're better in everything, so no.
Yeah, I know. It's a little tangy, the Carolina barbecue, right? I mean, I like it too, though. I like it a lot.
I add my little twist to it.
The hot sauce?
You know it.
All right, number two. You can see a day when every player on a football team will have that pad over their helmets because you see it more and more now. With more players doing it.
I can't answer that question, Coach.
Okay, I understand. All right, number three on Yes, No, Way, or Maybe. You felt bad for Meldon Law in 1993 when Billy Williams was torching him.
Well, I was trying to flip-flop sides. I was at least trying to figure out how I can get engaged with the game to help him out and let me at least go to the middle, get over top, something. But I did feel bad because I wanted some of the action. I couldn't get him to throw it my way. I was trying
poor
to get
guy was a freshman. I felt bad for him.
Yeah. I was trying to get Zook to rotate me, do something, just get me somewhere where I can get in the action.
I'll tell you that Anthone didn't talk to the media after that game until the last game he played, after the last game he played in the Sugar Bowl when they won the national championship. And I think he was hammered like everybody else was, and they all stumbled in from Bourbon Street at 8 o'clock press conference. They were saying anything then, but it was good to see Anthone again.
Well, that sounds about right. But Anthone was already a player of few words. Yeah. So that doesn't surprise me.
Hey, we'll let you get back on the road. We really appreciate you taking the time, Larry, to stop and talk to us. We love having you, love talking to you, and I know
anytime.
We love Riddell helmets. Like I said, I got a bunch of them here, so we appreciate you. We'll be back with more of another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Studios right after this break.
Go get
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
And our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great. Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, we're back with another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging. We're coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Ponderosa, and really appreciate that in the background is still crooked, isn't it? That one thing. I've got to get that fixed. I thought I did, but it came right back. Appreciate Larry Kennedy for joining us, and he's a good dude and really funny guy too. Really doing well, and he could have gone into coaching, but he decided to go elsewhere, and he's done a great job. Let's get to our Hesser and Kipke three things. Hesser and Kipke can be reached at 352-339-9920 for your needs in family law and workers' compensation. Check out Hesser and Kipke, and we'll get to our three things right now. Number one, TGL, the golf league. I did give it a shot Tuesday night, right after the basketball game. It's interesting, but I'm not a fan of gimmick golf. It's got to mean something, and it doesn't. And this is my problem with live golf. I've got a lot of problems with live golf. I happen to believe that you shouldn't take money from people who have been known to behead people. But anyway, but I don't want to get into the politics of that. My problem with live golf is it's just a circus with gimmicks, and why would I care who wins any of the events? And that's what I thought watching this. I don't care who wins. I just have no interest in who wins. It looks good. It's unbelievably graphically. It's perfect for television. It's a made-for-TV thing. But am I going to watch it a lot? No. I'm not being critical of it. I think like I said, it's perfect for ESPN. They're going to carry them all. 13, I think it is. So good for them, and more power to you. But like with the live, I may watch for 8 seconds and then flip it over to something else. It's just not for me. Maybe for you, though. I don't know. All right, let's move on to Hesser and Kipke's number 3, and that is Bill Belichick already making waves. And one of the waves he's making is that people are reaching out to him about their NFL jobs, including the Raiders with Tom Brady. I'm looking. In fact, the statement may already be out about how I'm happy. I took this job for a reason. I'm here at North Carolina forever, and blah, blah, blah. Whatever. But it's so funny how nobody wanted Belichick last year, but now that he's took a job at North Carolina, everybody's like, yeah, we'll go ahead and get you now. I don't think Belichick would walk into the Raiders job. You talk about your legacy. He's going to have a hard enough time at North Carolina not ruining his legacy. Now, his legacy is one of the great legacies of all time. I think no matter what people want to say about it was all Brady, you got to say he's one of the best, if not the best coach of all time in the NFL. It used to be the running joke for me, though, was when somebody would say, who should we get for defensive coordinator? I go, hell, Belichick. The fans would be thinking, we need to get Belichick to come down here. And he would come down here and hang out with Urban, but he went to North Carolina. Anyway, right away, he gets a big time. He's got a bunch of kids at the portal, including the UConn defensive lineman Price Yates. Is it Yates? It's hard to read my writing sometimes. Who terrorized them in the bowl game. I didn't watch much of that. We listened to a lot of the game driving to Jupiter, but he terrorized them in that game, and now he transfers to North Carolina. So hey, that's what the portal is, man. But well, it'll just be Belichick is going to be the new Dion. I mean, nobody's going to pay attention to Dion this season. They're going to pay attention to Belichick. Dion doesn't have the Heisman winner anymore. He doesn't have his son playing quarterback. Belichick's the new meat. You know, it's fresh meat. That's what it is, and that's what they're going to pay attention to. They'll just oh yeah, and by the way, Dion's still coaching, and they are going to pay a whole lot of attention to Deshaun Jackson. Although I'm happy he got a job, and I think what's going on in the coaching world, especially with African American coaches, and you heard Larry talking about how much he's working on that and helping to promote them. But we've got two of them facing off in a Final Four. That's really cool, and for football, so that's really cool. Anyway, let's move along to our number 3 thing on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, and that is let's get back to golf because I am a golf fan and I'm looking forward to this weekend. There's a million things to watch, but one of those TVs is probably going to be late night on the Sony Invitational or Open or whatever it is. And it's in Hawaii, which is a beautiful golf course. But the main reason is I don't know that more Gators have played in a tour event since the years of Gary Koch and Woody Blackburn, those guys. But Ricky Castillo is making his PGA Tour debut in Hawaii. Nice place to make it. So you got him. You got Horschel's playing, of course. Camilo's playing. Alex Tosti is playing. I think there's a 5th guy playing from a UF grad. Finally, we have enough guys that we can get behind. It's hard when you only have, we went through that cycle where you only had Billy. Was it Horschel? Yeah, that's if he's not on the leaderboard, and Mickelson or Tiger or somebody else or another, if they all aren't there, and it's a bunch of guys who you've not really heard of, and they're all from Georgia, you're not going to watch. I'll be watching a lot more. I'll be watching a lot of it this weekend. So we'll see. Now, by the time you listen to this, you may already know what Ricky Castillo shot in his first ever round, but you may not because he teed off at 6:30. So you probably have to look it up. I'm talking about 6:30 p.m. They're on Hawaii time, so it's what would that be? Would that be 1:30 or 0:30? I don't know. I'm not familiar with Hawaii time. All right, let's move along, and we appreciate Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's move along to our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. And for me, it was very easy, and I gave it. And let me tell you what, you need to go down there to Adams Rib and get some of those ribs and that barbecue and that amazing potato salad and green beans. And I know that they cater a lot of stuff over at Florida. I'm sure Denzel's had them as well. But Denzel of Aberdeen is our Gator of the Week, sponsored by Adams Ribco. Really cool thing that the way he came up. Now, Walter Clayton didn't have a great game. Walter Clayton had foul trouble. Denzel had to play a ton, I think 22 or 23 minutes, 16 points, 1 turnover as a point guard. We've talked about the depth on the front line. Well, that's the depth in the backcourt, man. When you can bring him in, you've got 3 guards out there starting the game, and you can bring him in for pretty much any one of them. And just really proud of what he's been able to. Look, with 5 games to go in the last season, I would guess 5 games, including the postseason, you forgot Denzel Aberdeen was even on the team. And then all of a sudden, he had that big 20-point game. Trying to remember who was it against, A&M or somebody. You get confused in the tournament. That was huge, and he's played well when he's been needed. Now, sometimes he takes some shots I'm not a big fan of, but I think that goes back to when you're in a game and you know you're going to be coming out, maybe you take a shot that you shouldn't, and so he's that's in his mindset. But every once in a while he does hero shots. And look, there's been a long list of guys at the University of Florida that like to take hero shots. But hey, I'm not. Please, I want to be very positive about Denzel Aberdeen. The fact that he's got a great first name, that's cool. my favorite actor, probably. I would say Denzel Washington's my favorite. So very cool, Denzel. Keep it up, man. Let's move along to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Now, as you know, we picked the playoff games Monday, and then I got a bunch of them in. And we're going to give you one more chance to qualify. And again, we don't know who's qualified for the picks yet of those, but we're going to give you one more chance to qualify. And this will be the Florida-Arkansas game. Winner, that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to do spreads. Just give me a winner on that game, and then we'll do the draw. We'll do the pull on Monday. And we've got a lot of people in now because we've got a lot of people to join us. Patrick Dooley 54 at gmail.com is all you have to do. All you have to do is write down the word UF or letters UF. Mail it to me. I'll know what it's for. Or Arky. That shouldn't take much effort. And you can be a qualifier if you are correct for this podcast, $25 at Leonardo's at Millhopper. Kyle Cohen and the boys. Now, I will say this, Drew Barry wasn't that other contest we did, and it's going to come to you. I just haven't gotten around to it. Sorry, Drew. I know you'll be all right. All right, let's get to our, hey, let's go ahead and do this, that, and the other. How about that? This, that, and the other brought to you by Shakow Insurance and by Ironwood Golf Course, and that's maybe where we add a second sponsor, or a new sponsor that's coming aboard. We'll work on that and when we get done here. All right, this is that there is so much going on. We always talk about it. In fact, it's funny. I mentioned on the radio to Scott Strickland that Danny White, his best friend, referred to them as the everything school. And then he just said, well, what was the score last night? Which was a good comeback. But, I mean, Tennessee's doing great things. No doubt. They just won the baseball championship. There's a lot of great schools in this conference. But when you here in Gainesville, we tend to focus on the Gators, and there's so much coming up and so much going on and so many other things on, nationally, that you can get like to the point, well, I don't even know what to watch. I don't even know where to go. I don't know whether to go to that game or that game. We're getting to the point now where baseball and softball are going to be playing pretty soon. You're going right across from each other. And you go, well, I could go to both, I guess, if I just find parking. So anyway, that is that. You know what snuck up on me? One of my favorite sports, and that's gymnastics. I had no idea it was coming up Friday until yesterday. I went in and go, hey, let gymnastics start Friday? Because I saw on TV, I don't even know who it was, Denver and Minnesota or somebody playing, having a gymnastics competition. I was like, is that live? Are they playing that? I didn't watch long of it. But anyway, it did totally caught up on me. Or snuck up on me, and like I knew it was coming up, but I didn't know when. All right, and the other is that they're having this meet Friday. Obviously, it's a 6:45 starts when they always announce it as, and they've got Nebraska, NIU, and Michigan State. Now, Michigan State had a tremendous first. I think they're 12th or 13th or 11th in the poll, but there's polls that have them as high as number one. So that'll be a really good match. Florida is ranked 6, somewhere in there, but really you can't rank a team till they score. Preseason rankings are kind of go out the window. Anyway, it should be a fun meet, quad meet. And I know it'll be a lot of people will be there. Students won't be back still, but a lot of people who love to go to gymnastics will be there. But I just want to make sure we talked about the gymnastics meet because it did totally sneak up on me. And you can understand that. I've been trying to deal with a basketball team and a football recruiting and all that stuff. All right, but I appreciate our sponsors, especially Shakow has been with us for a long time, man. We appreciate them. Shakow Insurance. All right, let us get to our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. And the Sponge of the Week, in this case, was a guy who soaked up a lot of rebounds. And that is Ruben Chinala. So I can never say his name right. I know how to say it, but then when I have to say it on the radio or the podcast, I mispronounce it. Chingala. Anyway, Ruben was unbelievable in that game. 15 boards. Think about that. 15 boards, 5 of them on the offensive end. They only had 2 guys that had 5 rebounds total in their team. And that's one reason Florida was able to dominate, because of Ruben. Ruben got in there and just said, I'm taking over the boards. And that was good. If he can keep that going, man. I would say he's going up against some big guys in this game, because they have them at Arkansas. Some real long players, Theroux being one of them. But he is definitely, Ruben Chinalu is our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. We appreciate those guys over there at Gallo. That's where you got to go. In fact, I may be heading over there after I have this conversation, because I need to go to the gym. Gallo's not that far away, so I may just go get that wash first. All right, let's move along to our Florida Surf Club upset alert. Appreciate the boys at the Florida Surf Club, boys and girls, men and women, I should say, young adults, and they do a great job. We'll get some more deets on where they're competing next, because I don't know if they're out there doing it right now, but they will be soon. The upset alert, I'm just going to lay it out there, is Ohio State -6. You got to be 6 points or more. And when we get to basketball, I think it's 5 points or more. But anyway, I think Texas has a real chance to win this game. Now, I don't know what the crowd's going to be like. You would assume it would be a Texas crowd. Ohio State travels. They're very obnoxious. In fact, Pat Forty did this great story about who is the most likable team. And he took away points and added points for different things. Go read it on SI.com. Pat's a good friend, and he is one of the best college football writers there is. Really anything. He's great at basketball, too, writing, and he's good playing basketball. Or used to be. I don't know how he is now. He's old like me. But anyway, go read that. It's really funny. And that's the thing. You sit and looking at all 4 of these teams, everybody's got a reason not to like one of them, but they're blue bloods, man. And that's cool that they're in there. I think anyway. All right, so Ohio State given 6 points. That is the official Florida Surf Club upset alert. All right, let's go to our Hugh, Cain, Allstate Mayhem moment.
The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today.
All right, these are the guys at TNT, and they're talking there, and then they ask him, Shaq, who's coaching him? He says the Florida Gators are coaching him. At first I went, why don't you mention the coach's name? Whoa, that's why they had this ready to come. And it cracked me up. This is great. This is good publicity, man. But that was funny. For those of you who were just listening and not watching, they dropped a large fake gator down on Charles Barkley, and it was pretty funny. I actually watched their game. In fact, they played tonight. They played tonight against a really good Kentucky team over at the O-Dome. So if you want to get out and see that, now again, you listen to it on Friday. It's already over. You know who won, but that'll be an interesting game. Florida against Kentucky. So that was definitely a mayhem moment. Zach, you agree with that was mayhem moment?
Less ready for that than Charles was. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
All right, let's get to our swamp games of the weekend. All right, I'm going to do my best to get through as many as I can. There's so much going on this weekend, man. Starting out, basketball Saturday for Florida. Arkansas is at 4 o'clock on ESPN, okay? Big time network for a big time team. The women are playing again. I know they're playing tonight, but they're also playing against Missouri Sunday on the road. That's at 3 o'clock, and that's only on the Plus if you have to watch that, if you want to watch that. Tonight, Notre Dame, Penn State, of course, 7:30 on ESPN. Friday, it's Ohio State, Texas, 7:30 on ESPN, as we just start being nuts for football. And the weird thing about it is, I prefer a regular season good weekend to the playoffs, only because you only have one game to watch. Like, it's one game, when it's over, got to wait for the next game. Same way with NFL. You can watch multiple games. I like that. But anyway, nobody cares what I think. All right, here are the NFL games. Saturday, the Chargers are at the Houston Texans. That's at 4:30 on CBS. So we'll compete with the Florida basketball game, which is why you got to have 2 TVs. If you don't have 2, you got none. The 8 o'clock game is Pittsburgh at Baltimore. That could be really interesting. That's it on Prime Video, so it's gonna be interesting too. I'll have to put it on one TV and just leave it there. All right, Sunday, Denver at Buffalo. Interested in that game. 1 o'clock, CBS. So you got to get up, get your workout in, get your lunch eaten, and then boom, sit down for that. Because then you get following that 4:30 on Fox, Green Bay at Philly. I have no idea who's winning that game. Be rooting for Philly. So I'm a Philadelphia is like my fifth favorite NFL team. That's not bad. They're not on the naughty list. Let's put it that way. All right, and then Washington, Tampa Bay is a game I can't wait for, and I'm rooting for Dan Quinn. Sorry, you Buck fans. I'm not going to have a problem with Baker because Baker Mayfield I like a lot. I'm not a big Bucks guy, but I want to root for my buddy Dan Quinn. But anyway, that game is at 8 o'clock on NBC, so you can watch it on cable or satellite. You can get the rabbit ears out, and then Monday night. You have the game on ESPN, 8 o'clock, the Vikings against the Rams out there in burning down Los Angeles. Again, it could be in Glendale. You may know this by now that it could be in Glendale, but we'll see. Whatever it is, keep everybody safe. It's just everybody enjoy the weekend. Try to stay at home if you can, if you're in Dallas area and you aren't going to the game, or anywhere where there's all kinds of icy things. People who don't know how to drive on ice should never drive on ice, and it happens sometime in Atlanta. I have some stories I could tell you. And all you people out in LA, especially, of course, my family, my oldest daughter and her husband and all her friends, be safe, man. 5 people have already died in those fires. And I've seen video of people trying to put them out with garden hoses, and it's just flames are flying all around them. It's tragic stuff. So anyway, all right. Be safe is what I'm saying. Be safe and be happy that we had Larry Kennedy on today, because I was anyway. If you weren't, I was. We'll be back with another show on Monday. We'll be in studio with Coach Spurrier as always. Thanks so much to Zach for doing a great job. Thanks to Archie for giving me barking interlude there when Larry Kennedy was on. But hey, we're dog friendly here, right? All right, we'll be back with another show Monday. Until then, I am Pat Dooley for another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, saying I'm deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.